All right, we're live. Welcome to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I am your host, the Bella Gamer, with my co-host, Glue Boy.
Hello, it's me.
And we're back with another wonderful Table Talk. I'm actually growing more and more like attached to these chats. I mean, I've always enjoyed them, but we've been getting just tons more people in lately, and it's been really great just having a lot of people show up and chat at these kind of things. It's been really good. But like we always do, what's up with you, Alex?
I am on my first day trying to get back into the 40k hobby side. I've been building minis. I have a kit in front of me that I'm going to idly be fiddling with to get my mind rolling for natural conversation. And I'm really excited now because Games Workshop is just releasing full army rules instead of previews now. And we got the entire Tyranid rule set, and I'm like, oh boy, if you just release Space Marines, Sisters, Chaos Marines, or Custodes, I'm set and I can know what I'm going to be able to do this edition. And I have like a list of things where I'm like, please, oh please, just make this good.
I'm super excited. Now that I have a space to paint and set things up, like, it's going to be really good.
I am really excited to see the work you do. It is an excellent, like, just exercise, like almost like meditative hobby to do. It's so relaxing, and you can work through like whatever shows you've been wanting to binge, or even like movies, just like idly paint or build. It's the best. Or just YouTube video essays, which is another one I mainly do.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot there for sure. Now, my only problem is what I'd like to do. This is the first Table Talk we've had the green screen.
Yeah.
In the background, and it actually doesn't look too bad at the moment. It's got some wrinkles, but that's pretty easy to work out.
It's those corners I see are gonna be slight trouble when it comes to chroma keying, but again, you can easily work around it.
Yeah. Well, the thing I want to get a box light to put like over here somewhere to cast light from this side of the shadows, so that they'll just kind of go away.
Yeah, because it's that right side that I see is like a little darker. Or right side on my end looking at it.
Right, yeah. It's this little corner right through here.
Yeah.
Because I was messing around with it before. I've seen some tips, and there's some really easy ways to do it.
Oh, yeah.
But, I'm waiting for a box light. Now, I had a box light that's actually supposed to come today, but I did not realize before it was too late that it's being sent to my old apartment.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. I've done everything in my power to be like, wrong place. Hopefully, it's just undeliverable and they'll refund me, and then I can just buy it again later.
I hope so.
If not, it's just a waste of $60, but I'm not driving all the way down to Bremerton for $60.
Yeah, no, it's not worth it. You'd spend more on gas.
Pretty much. So, yeah, just the situation, unfortunately, which sucks because I was ready to get it done. Because what I would like to do, kind of to touch on what I was about to say earlier, I wanted to do put maybe board games and Warhammer minis on the back wall over here, but this whole place is tilted.
Yeah, that's true.
If there's a wide enough base, it's not going to be a problem. But if you stack it high enough, it becomes more of a problem. So it's, I don't know. There's been talk.
It depends on how nice of a shelf you want, because from experience in looking slightly to my left, if you get those cheap $20 clear plastic buildable block shelves, that'll hold everything you actually need with pretty decent support. And if you just build it 3 or 4 wide, you're good. The only thing you'll have to deal with is a cat wanting to climb in it.
Yeah. Which, there's a lot of things. So I don't know. I mean, if anything, what I might end up just doing is doing the whole YouTuber, take a picture of your setup, and then just put that on your green screen, and just blur, Gaussian blur a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
So many YouTubers do that. Like,
that's true. Oh my god, that saves you so much cleanup. When I have to like clean my room whenever I record a webcam video, just like, yeah, let's really put me a green screen up so I never have to keep my room tidy.
yeah. So, you know, that's probably what I'll end up doing in the end. Use your gamer powers to untilt the place. You know, it's funny. Actually, we're thinking that I'm talking with my mom about possibly seeing if we can get like someone to come out and like jack up that side a bit and try to even it out. The hard part is I just don't know how well that will work, because it looks like they accounted for the tilts when they put this like room in. And so if it gets tilted up, the top corners are gonna just push against the house. It's a really fucky place.
That's weird. That's a really, like, if you're doing that and you're like wanting to add another room, couldn't you just be like, this is tilted, let's fix this real quick and then add the room?
Yeah. You would think.
Yeah, that. Well, actually, wait, no, I've been around real estate contractors enough in my life. Yeah, that's not surprising. I know how that shit goes.
And, you know, it's like, our deck outside needs to be jacked up a bit, but it's actually, like, moved away from the house. So, that will probably work fine. It's just this room specifically, I'm really unsure. I'll be right back. I gotta blow my nose.
Oh, shit. Ah, it's just me, then. What's up, chat? How's it going? Just getting ready to talk about bad tabletop takes when more people join in. I don't know. Today was the summer game fest thing. Are there any games that are coming out y'all are excited for? Because I know I got a couple. And one of which I know I'm not going to play because I don't have a PlayStation 5. I really want Spider-Man 2 really bad. It looks so fun. I'm not answering either of those messages. Well, Cam's back, so I don't need to worry about entertaining you myself now. Yeah, oh, actually, a trailer dropped literally 30 minutes ago for that game. And, like, you know, I understand. Persona, I like the Persona series. And by I like the Persona series, I like 3, 4, and 5. They're good. Can we just get fucking Persona 5 fighters now, please? Because Persona 4 Arena Ultimax was so good. That game, like, slaps so hard, and then they're just like, nah. Yeah, no, they the Atlas West accidentally released 2 pictures on Instagram of the Persona 3 remake and the Persona 5 Tactics game. I'm excited for Persona 3 remake because that game is very good. It just, the story is fantastic. It just really needs some newer game polish. It just needs a little better. I'll take your word for Persona 2. I've never played it. I've heard it's interesting. I think you're just sitting there, Cam.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just listening to the conversation.
Fair.
But, yeah, I don't know. I didn't watch anything today. The only thing I'm excited about is Armored Core 6 coming out in 2 months.
That's true. I'm really curious about, they released, it's Lord of the Rings Return to Moria, where you play as dwarves, and it looks like it's a third-person action game, but I could have sworn, I don't know if it was a weird cutscene, but it looked like it was kind of part city builder.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And like, I kind of would fuck with that. That sounds really fun. I don't know how good it's gonna be based on Gollum existing.
Well, that's just Lord of the Rings in general. Everything that comes out about the IP is like a coin flip of it, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, I just want Conquest to come back, dude. I love that game so much. That was such a fun game.
I was gonna say something. I forgot what I was just about to say. Oh no. It's yeah, not coming to me. Tragic.
Second person
games.
isn't a second person game where it's literally you playing through the story. That's what second person perspective stuff is, right?
Second person perspective is, I don't know how it would relate in the space, because in narrative, second person is like you're watching the events happen to the character as like an outside source, and third person is like what most books are, which is you're watching the narrative happen before you.
So, second person video game is when you watch the 8-hour cutscene compilation on YouTube.
No, because it's like it's someone else in the narrative.
Then it's when you're watching a Let's Play?
I
then
don't
it
know.
is somebody else.
Well, it was the Squire of Parish? I can't remember. There's a really good book that was in second person that was super interesting. But yeah.
I like the idea, because now in my head how I'm understanding it is like, yeah, for video games, you not being delivered directly the narrative and you're watching someone else is like watching a Let's Player. Like, technically.
Well, that's what technically third person should be. But, you know, it's construed differently for video game purposes.
I'm curious what game you're talking about, Starflurry. I'm very interested in video games trying to bend that nature.
But yeah, you know what? A Lord of the Rings, like, I would totally fuck with a Lord of the Rings dwarves like survival game where you're building up your dwarvish city in the mountains while also simultaneously like building up in the stone walls and all that kind of stuff, building forges and all that really cool stuff. I think it could be done really well.
I think it could. It does sound like they're making AAA Dwarf Fortress.
All right, 1 second. I think my mom's here and she's dropping off a sander and some other tools I need for working on the deck.
I see. So I'm curious, DBZ Dragon, what you mean with Dune, because like that's like, I know a Dune game was supposed to come out like an MMO or something. I don't know. I'm curious about it as someone who has only been exposed to Dune through the David Lynch movie and the recent movie, which is very good. The movie fucking slapped. I will look that up and get that in my next for YouTube. Yeah, the Game Fest was pretty dope. There's like a couple things there that I'm definitely adding to my wish list. Though every time I'm like got excited about something, it was a like a PlayStation 5 exclusive or something. The Alan Wake 2 game I'm very interested in, because as someone who likes the idea of Alan Wake but never got with the main game, like the original, I'm totally down for it to look more to be more survival horror-y. Oh shit, is Dune a second perspective? That's interesting. I've never read Dune. I tried when I was like 13 or 14 and got confused. But I should read Dune, to be honest, because I'm a big 40k fan and they ripped a lot of shit from Dune. I mean, why wouldn't you? Dune's got such an interesting world. Like, it's if you're gonna rip off any sci-fi universe, you should rip off Dune because it's actually like unique and interesting. What other big sci-fi thing has worms in sand? Not many. Also, all my information on Dune is also secondhand because I have a roommate who likes it a lot, but I have only seen the movies. And I like David Lynch, so his like Gumby shields were fantastic. That was a genius decision. What else? What? Now that I'm actually like thinking about it, I can't remember a lot of the stuff. Actually, fun fact, I did read somewhere, and I need to fact check it. If I think the Zerg were not influenced by 40k. I think they were separate things. Like the whole thing of StarCraft was going to be a 40k game apparently just wasn't true. So I think it's a Blizzard game. So if Blizzard, when Blizzard does anything, they find a thing that's popular and then rip it a little bit. There's some difference there. I don't know. I just read in like some place from someone who knows more about like the history of StarCraft than I do. It's like, oh, there's a lot of people that say it's supposed to be a 40k thing. It's not. They're separate. They work together to make sure it's not too similar. Warcraft was 100% inspired in some part by Warhammer Fantasy. Like that part is completely true. Because that's just Blizzard's MO, is they kind of take inspiration from other things. I think they admitted that.
Yo, Dark Ender, what's up?
What's up?
Alright. No more distractions, hopefully. Got a sander, got some smoke alarms.
You don't need a smoke alarm.
Most of the time we hope we don't need one.
Just like use your nose.
That's true, that's true. But we have the carbon monoxide for the stuff we can't smell with our nose, so.
I feel like you could still sense it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could smell.
You would when you started getting dizzy. You would know something was up. And then when you collapse, you know something's definitely up.
I think I can get around it, but that's just me.
But all right, we got a lot of people popping in chat here. Super excited. I am kind of excited for today's topic because it's not about any particular takes. I'm not necessarily bashing any takes, but I do want to see what everyone. It's always interesting. My video I came out with yesterday has been just a plethora of like people who are like, I see where you're coming from, or that's dumb, or people upset that I said this doesn't work at every table, or this doesn't work at Adventures League.
Which is fair. It's a fair point. Like, hey, I think, yeah, a point you made in there was like, yeah, you can't really apply this to like, what's a modular adventure, whatever the fucking like standard
AP.
play for AP, or even like whatever the standard play of society play for Pathfinder. Like, that's just not going to work. And it's like, yeah, that's true. And then also seeing some people like, so it matters, and then sometimes it doesn't. That's stupid. That's how it works. Builds matter if you're going into a game where it's like, hey, what's up, guys? We're gonna do like a hardcore like survival dungeon crawler. Make sure you build a strong character. It's like, okay, that's when your build matters. If it's like, hey guys, I made my homebrew world, we're gonna have fun in it, here's the campaign like prompt and it's full story, it's like, yeah, then it doesn't fucking matter. So just have a good time with your friends.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something I just failed to say was, generally speaking, in most games, builds do not matter that much. They matter to some degree, but your build shouldn't dictate like how optimized you make your character. You want to, of course, be able to do the things you want to do with your character. And a lot of people were very disingenuous saying, oh, you're just doing a jack of all trades, not good at anything character. It's like, no, that's not what I'm implying. The only time I said that in the video was even in Pathfinder, even if you did that, you would still be decent in combat or for looking up things or whatever, you know. The point I was making was, it doesn't matter really what you're trying to do with your build. You don't really have to min-max in order for it to work out.
Not really. I mean, you can, all you can do is just play a character, like, all right, here's my character, and then just go down your level ups and be like, what would be justified for my character? And, like, you go down that kind of idea, rather than, like, oh, yes, well, if I do this, I can optimally do this combo. It's like, well, or you could be like, oh, my character's been, like, dabbling into this, or, oh, this one works, like, there's a NPC that's kind of doing this, so, like, maybe I'm learning from them, and you make it a story idea. Like, that's cool and dope. That's great. So I make my characters, I build them through, like, what would they actually feasibly be interested in doing? Which is, like, even my most buildy kind of thing with William, his entire build is about the fact that he is a shady librarian. So all of his shit is strictly for, like, changing out spells really quickly or learning spells really quickly. So, like, it takes him, like, very little time and effort because that's what he's good at and has been doing his entire life.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, you're still building to do this thing you want to do really well, even if it's not necessarily directly, like, what's meta combat wizard build.
If I was being meta, I'd use more, like, staves or something. I think that's what the best evocation wizard stuff I've been seeing is. People are like, oh, make sure you get a really nice stave. It's like, yeah, well, I don't know. I'll just kind of see what happens.
And I've been seeing a lot of interesting takes in the chat here already. Oh boy. But I mean, that's the thing, right? Even in D&D, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in any game, really, you know, what your build is. We literally played Anima Beyond Fantasy. That game, you can literally make a bad character who can't do anything.
Yes.
It is very possible and actually almost easy to do, given how the system is set up. That game, you do need to actually be concerned a little bit about optimization. You need to invest enough points in things you want to do, because otherwise you just can't do them at all.
One of my biggest fuck ups was for like making a character in Anima. It was when I played Hiram, and I had the idea of like, oh, I kind of want to do some magic and I kind of want to do some summoning. No, you have to invest in one. Like, my magic was dog shit, and even when I got buffed with having like a little familiar, it wasn't buffed enough. It's like you can't spread yourself too thin in that game, or else then you're just bad at everything. And character creation, in my experience for Anima, is a lot of, here's my idea, and then you or Devin being like, let's change this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is like, when you play Anima, you need to play with someone experienced who can help you make your character.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you're just going to make a bad character.
I like to make all my characters in isolation because I like having my introductions for characters, be it on either side, to be more natural. That's just how I better act in roleplay, was when if I can method act as much as possible. So, except for Anima, where I've made every single character in a call with you and Devin, or one or the other. Like, because you have to. It's just kind of how it works, and both of you are really good at that system.
Yeah. And even Pathfinder, like, I've gotten pretty good at helping people make characters that they really want to do, and it's really easy to set people on the right path. And see, you know, Myriad, that's the thing, right? Intentionally sabotaging a character is not the same as making an unoptimized character, you know? Like, if your whole thing is I want to play a melee wizard, you don't need to necessarily invest a ton into your intelligence to make it happen. You have to do a lot of things, and you have to work it out. But, you know, even though a melee wizard is not necessarily a very optimal wizard, you don't have to invest. Like, there's a lot of spells on the arcane spell list that don't require any kind of spell save. Like, it's still very possible. But yeah, of course, anyone can just attempt to make a character who fails at everything. But then again, if that's what they want to make, then I guess they can accomplish that, you know, which I think is a good thing, even if it's not good for party comp. And that's also another thing as well, as you know, whenever making characters at a table, you have to all try to be on the same page as far as what you're making.
I think it comes in the idea of making a character that like just can't do anything, like that type of character that will fail at most things. Like, make sure that's totally a-okayed by everyone else at the table. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it's party comp matters in games where I think if it's going to matter, the DM should communicate that. But I also think a good DM can make a really fun, engaging campaign for squads of like where everyone shows up to the table and like, oh, we're all martial characters. I think the DM could make some ways to make that interesting. It's the idea that you had last stream of how you put it with balancing like tabletop games of you're not designing combats that are good for this level, you're designing combats that are good for the party.
Right.
Like, that's how you need to do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why the GM with infinite power can make anything happen for the party. And even then, Myriad, it's just like, yeah, they can buff charisma, but you can't put all your ability boosts into charisma. You have to put boosts into other things. Like, by game rules, you just can't put everything into it. So your character will still have bonuses in the non-charisma things that, you know, even if charisma is their highest stat, even if their charisma is a 16 and their core stat is like a 12 or 14, whatever, 14 is still really workable in Pathfinder because of statuses, because of, you know, various teamwork options. Like, everyone can make a character work. It's insanely hard if you're making a character who is built to do something to not, you know, be able to contribute in a game. And again, if the whole party is kind of unoptimal for their level, the DM just has to throw encounters that are slightly weaker at the party. You don't even have to adjust XP, technically. The GM can just keep the XP the same, but reduce monsters down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's a game that's literally all about imagination, and literally there's someone there who's telling you how the game works. It can be done. Now, like I said in the video, this doesn't work for something like Society. But Society is not normal tabletop. It's like, it's not a game about your characters. You're playing in the adventure path, and your presence is even necessary.
I think the conversation's going on in the chat too. I think it depends on why the question's being asked. For what is the party missing, that could be good. Because I mean, I completely agree that party comp in an idea of, oh, I have this really cool character idea, then it's like, ooh, sorry, that role is filled, you got to do something else. Like, that feels bad. That sucks. I feel like you can get around that in some fun ways. I mean, I think we've had some really interesting party comps where we had 4 DPS mains in Anima, and it was fucking amazing. Like the Jock Squad we had.
Yeah.
That was super fun.
Well, Anima's also not a game designed for teamwork.
No.
But
like, if you're trying to do a traditional like party comp, like with, you know, you have the tank, the DPS, the healer, like whatever all those roles are, that we were not that, but we still had a fantastic time. You balanced the combats really well. If the question is asked in a method of like, ooh, yeah, this is already filled, sorry, change. But the other end of it that I think is touched on with Dead Phoenix is the idea of, I have so many character ideas, let me know what we have to narrow it down, please, oh God. That is the other extreme of it. I think it depends on how people create characters. It's the difference between, like, say, for example, how Devin creates characters of making hundreds of builds, and then I create characters of oh fuck, I have a character in 3 weeks. Time to obsess over this one person I'll be playing and figure out exactly how they tick. It's a difference of how you create characters leading up to games.
Yeah, and again, like Myriad, you're intentionally trying to make characters that just don't work. But when realistically is a character going to do that? And even if it's a character who's completely not combat orientated, the game can still have plenty of things that character can interact with in the story. There are tons of books, movies, everything about a party with some badasses and that one nerd in the group who is helpful in the things that the jocks can't do, you know?
It's the idea of it's significantly harder to roll up to Pathfinder. Like, it's your first campaign ever with a character that you're playing. You're like, oh, this is bad, isn't it? Like 10 sessions in. That's significantly less likely to happen. And if there is a major problem, it can easily be addressed by the DM. But yeah, it's I mean, I would be curious, Cam. I do think you making a build idea of I think you've thrown this idea out, or I've talked about it with you on TableTalk, of creating the intentionally bad build, because you say all the time it's so hard to do. Like, can you find mathematically the worst character you could possibly make in second edition? Because I think it'd be a fun video.
Build. Yeah, that
like,
one
literally
definitely would be a fun one for sure.
That'd be such an interesting like build idea of just you could claim that some builds are bad. No, I want to create the one worst build in Pathfinder to shut everyone up that such and such class is bad, such and such build is bad. No, because when compared to this, it's top tier. That would be a really fun video.
That would be a good one for sure. And man, we've had a lot of takes here. As far as finding a situation, people asking what the party is missing, sometimes they just want an idea. They want a place to start for their character. Choice paralysis is a terrible thing. So, it's worse when no one in the party is willing to tell anyone what their character is. My pet peeve is when everyone is trying to play a secret character and no one is willing to tell anyone what they're doing. And then everyone is just like, well, let's just hope that this works out, rather than trying to build a game that has some kind of synergies or characters who might complement each other. Your secrets do not matter that much. Your secrets pretty much only matter to you. So don't play selfishly. Work with your team to make an interesting story.
Yeah, that's why I have my policy of I will at least tell people this is the build idea, this is the class I'm doing. Give the knowledge of that element, but then I do just like to have my own who the character is as a person. I keep a little more close to my chest because I just want it to kind of naturally flow. If it comes to the actual construct of the character, nah. It's for our Monster of the Week game that we started, it's oh yeah, I'm doing the professional, I'm playing a weird conspiracy theorist that then turned into cryptid obsessed guy, and act just being very vocal, this is the idea for the character, and then just not given much out
yeah
later.
I mean, that's the thing, right? You could still have secrets,
yeah,
but if personality, right? You should be able to tell everyone the personality, because personality is the most apparent thing that happens when you start playing the game. It's not a secret from the second your character starts talking and interacting.
True.
And so it's what kind of personality does your character have? What kind of build does your character have? Hell, even if you are trying to desperately hide what class you're playing for some reason, you can say what your job is. I'm playing a straight up melee combat character who focuses on tripping enemies and creating opportunities to strike them when they're down, Boom. What class is that? Who knows? Could be a monk, could be a fighter, doesn't matter.
And that lets the others know that they should also play a character that does trip attacks.
Yeah, and then everyone, no enemies ever stand, everyone with attack of opportunity. Free hits for everyone. Yeah, I mean, that is technically something that can happen in Pathfinder, having no health. Not a bad idea for a character. It's just, you're playing with fire intentionally. So, you know. What are some other good, bad takes we've had in here?
You know, it's one that I thought of the moment you brought up the subject. I think this was a comment you had. What was it? The guy that hates monks and stuff because it's not realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that like
That's
he
an old
hates
one.
magic. And like in my games, magic isn't a thing because it's unrealistic and bad and broken.
Well, no, monks aren't a thing because a monk being able to punch a dragon makes no sense. But, you know, wizard casting meteor makes way more sense.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that idea of just like, you don't like a thing, therefore it cannot exist. It's
Yeah.
like, as much shit as I talk on druids and like nature magic shit, I would never, if I'm running something, tell a player, no druid, you can't play that. I hate druids. I think nature magic is in like nature-y shit is like my least favorite aesthetic. I find it really boring, but like I would never prevent another person from having fun because of that take.
Here's a good one. Paragon characters who straight edge, won't do anything wrong, always follow the law, and forces the party to do the same. Not really a take on TTRPGs, but there's tons of people out there. It's like, well, no, sometimes you need a straight man in the party. It's like, yeah.
Yes. It's actually, that's super interesting it's brought up because this has been something I've been thinking about, especially with how we did our Tuesday like test for the children's game idea. The only character that actually made it through the entirety of it, I've built up to be a paragon. Like if I play him, he's 100% an actual paragon character. The thing that makes paragons interesting, and it's really hard to do, it takes some work. Especially been seeing this because I've been watching the 90s Superman cartoon on HBO, and it fucking rules. It's so good. And it's like the idea of like this, that's the same reason that people think that Superman is a boring character. When it's like, no, it's just when you're writing a character like that, the story for them and their struggles aren't like, oh yeah, they might not have any flaws, but like they have an exploitable weakness of their moral code. So a lot of their actual issues are external rather than fully internal. It just takes a little bit of effort to create a character that's interesting with morality, and also doesn't stop characters from acting out. Because actually, we have that. We have a lot in my Friday D&D game I'm in. We have a lawful good paladin that is very straight edge about a lot of things, but the player is very good at understanding I'm also not going to stifle your character choices because that's not fun. It's the difference of you can play that character, just don't be a dickhead at the table about it. It's just put some thought into it and don't just be like the party parent that doesn't allow people to have fun.
Yeah, there's lots of good examples. There's times where in Justice League or whatever, someone does something that's a little too far and Superman confronts them. But he's Superman. If he really wanted to, he could have stopped them.
Yes.
But instead, he addresses them, and he's like, "You can't do that. That's going too far." He never forces. He never grabs another character, prevents them from doing an action. Unless it's a truly heinous thing. Situation. It's something that needs to be done, and there are a lot of styles of characters that need a level of tact and ability to read the scene and make it fun for everyone. And that's, I think, what it boils down to. In any character you make sure that you're playing your character with the idea that you're playing in a group narrative game. Your character should be adding to the narrative, not selfishly trying to drive it yourself. And actually, there's a very interesting take that came up here. Actually, no, let me hit an old one first. Wouldn't picking a system of play be more important to character concept execution than build choices within the system? Yeah, and that's, I think what they're trying to say is, it was DBZ Dragon, it's the framing of the game, we're playing a political intrigue game. Then yeah, you definitely want characters who are capable of doing that, for sure. the whole point about the conversation is not players making characters in bad faith. I think Dead Phoenix brought this up in the comments of the video. Is this whole you don't need to optimize, you can play whatever kind of character, is under the assumption that you're a good faith player, that you're making a character that you genuinely think adds to the narrative and are trying to actually do something with your character. You're not intentionally making a broken character who is not meant to play in whatever campaign it is, you know? Like, people take your builds don't need to be optimized, and they're like, oh, right, so you're just gonna make a character who actually can do nothing. It's like, no one has said that. It's what's big, or what's important, is that maybe they don't start off with an 18 in their core stat.
Yeah, or they're not built around a specific combo, and like, or even you don't have levels 1 to 20 fully mapped out. Like, you can kind of free flow, or like you have those decisions in a level up where you're like, well, this one would be better for the overall build and make my character like stronger, but this one I feel like makes more narrative sense and would come up in really interesting ways, and you like make that decision instead. Like, those also are examples of making an unoptimized character. You're making decisions that don't make your character like superly strong, but strengthen the narrative, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah, and like I said in the video, all it takes is the GM throwing you a few bones, and then your character suddenly becomes good, like, mechanically speaking. So, you know, there's a ton of stuff. And then the next thing that came up was Dead Phoenix mentioning games that require you, when you're making them, to write out the flaws of your characters. Or list them out, have your characters with built-in, like, weaknesses. Now, this is actually a very interesting take.
That is interesting.
Because I like games that make you think of those things, but I also agree that sometimes character flaws are not super, like, obvious or transparent features of your character. Like, an interesting idea is a character who... Oh, God damn it. This is based on an anime, so you'll have to forgive me. But a character who does not like the idea of slavery and helps to get rid of slavery, but also has a slave because they've formed a bond with that person and they're afraid of losing it if they're no longer, like, their slave. It seems hypocritical, but it's something that, like, is more telling to the narrative, and that hypocrisy can be something that can be talked about, you know. There's a wide variety of situations where your character can be good, but have exceptions that kind of paint them differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't know what anime that is at all. That sounds like a wild concept for one. Yeah, I don't know. I think the whole like picking your flaws early on can be a really interesting exercise, because I really like in Anima the disadvantage system, where like you pick these disadvantages, and even like you're looking at it, you might not have an idea of what your character might even have, and then you pick one, you're like, all right, why do they have this? And you like have to justify it, because you shouldn't just pick like all these random ones. Like, all right, I'm picking, like, for example, if I think of Garvey from Anima, his disadvantages, his disadvantages were he's scared of the supernatural, because his entire character is built around the idea that he's in control of any situation, and magic directly takes that out of the equation, like in monsters and all that, completely rips him away from any sort of control. So he's terrified of those situations because of his childhood and what happened during the children's game. Or the other one of he was a deep sleeper because you just kind of had to. That's how you get any proper sleep. You tuck away somewhere, you sleep just like the dead in a crowded city where everyone's making a lot of noise. And like when you're sleeping just in the middle of nowhere, or just on your own on the streets. Like that was those decisions going into it. Or like, all right, here's a character who's really weak to disease. Why is he like that? Well, this is the one I picked because he grew up in a sterile lab environment, so he just hasn't been exposed to germs. It's like that idea. It's like you build those into your character mechanically, which I love. I love those. If it's just like, all right, now this part of character selection, fill out this box. This will have no actual gameplay mechanics, but just fill it out. I don't like those.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why it's so interesting. It's an interesting thing to talk about as like a flaw should not be foisted upon your character. And sometimes flaws are the result of character actions rather than like something they were built with. You know, so, like a character can come into a story and be generally a good person, generally with no major downsides or whatever, and then something happens and then, you know, that's a flaw. It's just something where it's like when you're talking about the complexity of people, it feels very strange to build a character around a flaw that's so like, again, transparent, you know, so obvious or so like easy to see that it's not really a part of the character, or that the character was built around the idea of that flaw.
Yeah, I literally made one of my favorite characters actually most of my favorite characters I've ever made were directly built around a flaw like that I just latched onto. Like Sebastian is a character I think I really loved playing. He was great. My anima character was a psychic, and his biggest flaw and part of his main story was coming up with well, he also had a phobia. He had a fear of touch. He was terrified of any form of physical contact or emotional contact. So that was just part of his character, was learning how to break down that wall for people. Or a character whose biggest flaw is that he refuses to admit that bad things have happened in his life, or that refuses to actually sit down and process trauma. Instead, he just like lives a hedonistic lifestyle and parties on. Those are two flaws that I built two characters I really love around. And it's like, yeah, it's the idea of like you made your character, they're already flawed enough. Like, or just like you know your character, you know what makes them tick, you understand that. I think it depends on the game, because I think some games do it better and do it really interestingly. I think the one that I enjoy is Delta Green, because its entire style is developed around actually giving your character flaws and like using them in the game narrative for the DM. Like that part is interesting. I like how it's done. I like that certain bonds and flaws can be overwritten based on the experiences of the campaign. But I think at the end of the day, it depends on like, you know, if a game has directly those features, maybe don't engage with it. But I think there are examples that it can be done really well, or at least approached really well. I don't wish every single game had that mechanic, because I don't want to, like certain character decisions to be forced on me. Like, so I get the reason of not liking it, but I also am saying that as a person who completely loves taking those examples and finding ways to make my characters, because that's just my process of doing it. I have a really bad time of making people, because I kind of super focus on one person for a long time and really develop them out, and then never think about making a character for like months and months on end. I'm not a build man. I don't make builds. I don't like doing it.
I love builds, but I also make all my builds layered and nuanced with narrative.
Yeah. I always make the person first, the build second.
Let's see. Any other hot takes? Any bad takes in tabletop we can talk about? Now, there have been quite a few earlier.
Yeah, no,
Hmm.
I my tabletop takes were purely off of like weird comments I've seen around of like I hate this at my table, and it's like I hate just this basic thing that's in tabletop games of I hate magic. I hate having monks in my game. I guess. Oh no, you know what? Bad takes on tabletop. I hate people that claim that all your tabletop games have to be realistic. Like not just like people who
Yes.
prefer it. It's the people who say it has to be. That part I cannot stand. That's because I hate realism in my tabletop games.
Yeah, people who force gaming to be granular. DMs who are like, we're playing a survival game. Weight matters, food matters, and that's a very bad take, Slug. You're just wrong.
Fighters are OP. They get +1 or +2.
+2. You don't even know.
I've never played a fighter. I don't know any class that I haven't played.
The +2, the dreaded +2.
Which is that? Well, I mean, every +1 or +2 in Pathfinder means something.
It does indeed.
That is an extra 10% chance to crit anything.
Ooh, interesting. Yes, that's a take, and that's a take GMs have. It's such a like elitist thing of like games are purely run by the GM. How good the game is purely the GM's like on their shoulders to do. It's something that I've kind of generally said before because I believe a GM can like there's a lot the GM can do to make the game good, but it's definitely not all on the GM. You can have the best GM in the world and the games can still go poorly. Many of my players love playing in my games, thoroughly have enjoyed it. I've had people leave my tables at Adventures League of all things, where I didn't even have that much choice on how the game was being run, really. They didn't like it because I didn't allow them to mend, like, fractured bones with the mend spell or anything like that. Like, I refuse to break the game for them because of their silly ideas.
Yeah, it's like there's fun, silly ideas because you can have those. Just make it constrained in some way. Because I'll say like early on, early tabletop, I'm like, yeah, why doesn't the mend spell work like that? But then you read it, like, yeah, it's not what it fucking does. Mend spell does not mend everything. Isn't it's just a cantrip too. It's bound by a cantrip's restraint.
Is it okay for players to try to derail the GM's plans? No, that's again the thing of like, it's a group narrative experience. The GM is a part of the group, you know? So yeah, a game can absolutely be ruined by the players just choosing to try to make the GM's life a living hell for no reason. Or players not respecting the setting that the GM put into the game.
Yeah, it's also the thing of like just table etiquette, because there are examples of fun derailment that don't break the game, where it's like a DM comes up with a plot and it's like, all right, now I'm letting you all loose into this scenario, how do you solve it? And then like the players come up with a really dumb fun plan where the DM is like, you know, head in hands, like, oh my god, what's happening? And then it plays out and it's great. Like, there are examples of positive plot derailment that are fun, or even just like a weird like dice interaction comes up that completely change how the story is, and the DM, if they're very flowy, like, all right, fuck it, that's the story now, and just like goes with it, that rules. There are many examples from like very top DM. There's a very popular story by Brenly Mulligan who did that, where it was a basic political intrigue plot turned into saving a princess from a marriage she didn't want to take part in, because he kind of like narrated something weird. They took it in a direction and ran with it. That is positive plot derailment. And there's the negative ones of your character, your DM's very clearly building up this big plot, and then the player's like, no, we're gonna go to the next city. Like, that's the form of where it's like, that's kind of a dick move. It's about reading the room at the end of the day.
Yeah, everyone understanding that like It's a narrative game. It's a group narrative game. The game is the most fun when everyone is playing with each other's interests in mind. Selfish players are the death of good tabletop. Because there's that guy story, you know. There's a lot of people who justify like, no, I came to this game so that I can have fun. And it's just like, it's like people who come to an event and then throw a fit when everything doesn't go their way. You know, you go to a Warhammer tournament and then you just have one person who just hates losing more than anything and just makes everyone's problem. It's just like, why'd you come to a thing where you could possibly lose then? If you're going to be this upset about it.
If you want to get around something like that, yeah, join games or no games where you're just going to win. Or play narrative games and then play the side that will win. I don't know. The idea of mental stats is always something I've ignored. I make intelligence a dump stat, and then I'm like, I'll just play it how it plays. If I have good ideas in the moment, I'll come up with them. If I have like bad ideas in the moment, I'll play it off. But like, it's never been something I've thought into to justify stats. I've played a lot of low intelligence characters, but like, that doesn't change how I roleplay them.
It's very much, when it comes to nebulous things like mental traits especially, because what is intelligence, right? There's tons of times where you can have the suave, smooth-talking character who's very well-spoken, who comes across as incredibly intelligent, but they just don't know a lot of things. Like magnets, how do those work? You know,
yeah,
kind of situation. It's very nebulous, where a character with good charisma doesn't have to be necessarily very well spoken. They can just be very kind and earnest and draw people in by just how good of a little being they are, you know.
Yeah, charisma through just being a likable person. Or even like maybe you play a character that is that suave, like typical charismatic face character, but maybe your charisma is low because everyone can kind of see through your illusion that you're a slimy piece of shit.
But so what Vaporwatch is talking about is some people think that mental stats don't belong in games, unless it's for saves, something like willpower. Yeah, that's a pretty bad take, honestly, because
yeah,
that just tells me that you're not willing to try to put yourself in another person's shoes, or that you're feeling pressure to match a character whose stats don't match you, and that's not what it's about. There's no rule in tabletop saying you must act like your character or talk like your character. You know,
if there are actual situations where you're like in a game where it's like, hey DM, this situation actually purveys to my character, but like I have a feeling my character would understand this more than I do. Can I maybe make a check, or can I get something expanded on? Because like I've studied this thing, I have a 20 intelligence, I IRL have a 10. Help me, DM, please, because I know you have that policy at your tables, and it's very cool. Of like, you have the opt-in kind of deal of like, hey, I want to word something this way, but I can't think of a method of actually wording it, and you just like have all right, just tell me what the idea you want to get across, which is a good, healthy way to do it. It takes a lot of stress off of people that might be worrying about that.
Here's a good one, and it's not necessarily a take in itself, but many takes are made around it. Is it okay to include IRL, controversial, political, or cultural references in games? For example, RGM had some of our enemies discriminate against other ancestries. It is a complex situation because people are complex. There's people who go to tabletop to escape real life, and so do not wish to worry about political things or things that, you know, are bothering them in real life, and they just kind of want to go and crawl some dungeons and slay some monsters. But there's also other players who enjoy tackling hard concepts and really want to tell a very deep, immersed story. Yeah, consent. Consent is just the biggest part of it all, is that everyone needs to be on the same page. Tabletop doesn't need to have those, but can be, fleshed out by those concepts in equal measure. So, talk to your GMs, talk to everyone. There's a lot of people who are just like, I won't take out slaves in my games because slaves were a thing in history. And, like, sure, but I think they're coming away with it with the wrong take. They're, like, trying to defend the need for slavery when that's not necessary.
It's like we've had games where when we're starting it, we fill out information checklist, like just Google form thing of, hey, just let's go over some no-go topics, that like stuff you just don't want to deal with in game. And like, yeah, I think everyone has some boundaries that you should set, you should know, and make sure that like is spoken. And also, if you're running a game, make sure that you have the established like thing where if something does come up that's a problem, your players feel okay to approach you and talk about it. Because I have some boundaries for games. One of them is romance stuff with my characters. Because at the end of the day, I am kind of weirded out by the concept of tabletop romance because I don't want to roleplay flirt with my friends. That is weird. I'm not into that. I don't care how cool of an NPC Cam can make. I ain't flirting with them.
Nor would I force you to, ever.
Exactly. And it's because I've made it very clear, like, hey, this is my boundary, please don't cross it. And then you, a decent person, are like, yes, sir.
Though I am a sucker for the girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever trap in games. But, obviously it's always consensual.
Yeah, it can come up well in games, and I understand why other people would. It's just my own personal boundary that I make sure is vocalized when it's new DMs. And so then it just doesn't come up. Because I just, I don't want to have to like pop in like, or even like interrupt the thing where I'm like, hey, by the way, this is making me uncomfortable, like this idea. And then it's like, oh shit, all right, well, let's repivot. Instead, just have it be a thing established out of game, like, so you just don't have to have that, and you can just sit down and have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. It's someone mentioned it earlier. All bad takes can be handled with good communication, which is true for the most part. Obviously, communication is a two-way street, and if one person's holding up a stop sign, then there's really not much that can be done in that situation.
That's true.
It's just be a decent person. Don't make your issues everyone else's issues. If you absolutely cannot avoid playing selfishly at tabletop games, then you probably shouldn't be playing tabletop with people. Plain and simple. Even if you thoroughly enjoy it, even if it's something you really enjoy, if you cannot help yourself but to play selfishly at the expense of others at the table, you shouldn't be playing a narrative group game. You should be doing something else, anything else, really.
Yeah, play a video game.
Play a video game. Because people don't realize, but everything that a selfish player wants can be gained just by investing in other party members and working to help invest them in your character. There's tons of times I played a literally selfish evil wizard in a game, and at first he was an asshole and people didn't like him, and then he realized that if he just acted kindly, or if he just tried to be people's friends, they would help him with whatever he's doing. And then it didn't become a all about me situation. It became like an exchange. He was just like, I'll help you with your situation if you help me with mine. He got what he wanted, and all he had to do was just a little extra work. And in exchange, he had a variety of high-level characters who are willing to help him in situations that might arise in the future.
Exactly.
Like, I
You
played the evilest, most selfish character I could, while also respecting the other players in the game. And guess what? I ended up with a character with a lot of broken features by the end of that campaign.
Yes.
Some permanent summons, some powerful artifacts.
That was fucking crazy. You played a very selfish, self-centered character in a very respectful and non-selfish way, which is possible to do.
You know, so I know it's possible. And you know, the funny thing is, right? There's been plenty of lawful good style characters who played way more selfishly in games and ruined them. Like, you know, the lawful stupid paladin who just doesn't let anyone have any fun because it'll break the rules or cause trouble, you know?
Yeah, there are differences of doing it. Like, you could even have the very basic, like, idea of maybe your character as a tenant of, like, listen, I don't care at the end of the day. What you do with your life is on you. I'm just not going to get roped into an obvious, like, horrible thing. Like, if the evil character comes to us like, hey, you want to go commit a murder? It's like, no, obviously not. But you can still have those characters interact. Just don't play it in a selfish way. I think at the end of the day, one of the main problems is characters that come in, like the whole lawful stupid paladin that comes in with the expectation that they're the protagonist.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's just selfish
healthy.
Playstyles. You know?
Exactly. But they come in with a selfish character. And it's like, that's you can do this. I made a game with a really well played Paragon lawful good paladin who is a beloved character in the game and doesn't limit us. It's fantastic. So it is possible. You can do it. Just think and play, like, just put some thought into how you want to play them and how you want them to come across. And also, yeah, just talk with the people and be like, hey guys, here's the thing I'm playing. I want to make it very clear. Y'all can still take part in these actions. My character might not agree, but I'm not going to, like, physically stop you. Or I'm not going to, like, be a dick at the table about it. Like, you can just communicate outside a game and come up with things for in-game. Or you can chat like, hey, here's a plan I have for this next session my character's going to do. Do you want to take part in it? It's like, oh, hell yeah. And then you, like, pre-establish a thing that's going to happen. You can do that. You can talk about the game outside of the game hours.
Yeah. And in fact, you should be encouraged to do so. Interesting one. All right, this is an interesting one. One of the more gray areas of controversies is whether GM should fudge rolls or not. That's a consent thing. Again.
Yes.
I mean,
I have a policy for fudging rolls in one specific circumstance, only to prevent feels bad moment. I had a rule based off of Adventures League, my experiences in Adventures League with some DMs who aren't cam and therefore are not good. But one of my rules for when I ran games was nobody would go down in the first turn of combat. Like, and I designed my combat so, like, you will not just get one shot, because I've had so many combats where I took place in it and, like, it's balanced for our level, quote unquote, and I'm playing a character that's, you know, well built, but oh no, because of this thing, I just one shot you with this overpowered boss monster. It's like, wow, cool, this is super fun. First turn of combat, I get to do nothing. Hell yeah. So I had a rule of that, and one of the things that would come up sometimes is, like, you would make an attack roll with, like, a scary weapon where I've mathed it out. It's like, oh yeah, on an average hit, it won't take you down, and then I nat 20, and it's like, okay, it's first turn of combat. This, if I nat 20 and roll decently well, this is going to knock them down. I'm just going to make this a normal attack. That is the only time I ever have thought fudging rolls is a good idea.
Yeah, and it's a thing, right? I said consent earlier, but sometimes players who don't want it to feel like the game's being made easier for them still benefit from things being made a little less, you know, fatal. in some situations.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's something that needs to be based on trust. If you're playing with new players, who might not necessarily be new to the hobby, but new to you, it's best to just open roll on the table, because everyone then understands that it was just bad luck, you know? No one can argue with the random occurrence of the dice. But as Dev Phoenix mentioned, there are other ways to kind of fudge your game without necessarily making it the rules themselves. Making enemies behave in ways they normally wouldn't to avoid like finishing a character off or similar. And you know, it's kind of a situation of working genuinely in everyone's best interests. And that's why in a lot of those situations, I've come to those situations, and so I give my players choices, you know. I don't remove agency one way or the other. There's been plenty of times where I've had a bad situation. I'm like, all right, this character is gonna probably try to finish you off. Do you want me to play as intended, or do you want me to, you know, do you want me to just switch targets, you know? I always make a situation where you could fudge the rolls into more of just like a negotiation with the player. The moment where we have to step away from the combat and say, hey, that sucks and that's really bad. So I can play it as intended, or we can work if that makes it better for you, you know? Then it's something the player actually gets to have a say in, rather than it was just a bad roll and now, you know, they're helpless. They couldn't do anything about it. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I actually really like hero points in general.
Oh, hero points are great. That's such a good thing to just have. Yeah, the way I always viewed it, well, also because, yeah, I was playing with people who were relatively new, and it was something I hid of my policy. I never vocalized it. The way I always viewed it is I ran my tabletop games. Yeah, much like Dead Phoenix is kind of saying too, with like, you know, you make other decisions other than just fudging rolls, because I definitely did that too. Of the original difficulty of Resident Evil 4, where the difficulty of that game is based on how well you play. So then if you don't understand how the difficulty system works, theoretically you have your perfect video game like difficulty, where it's completely set up for your skill level, which I think is a very good thing to do. And then just have that kind of be the basics, because I also knew if I ever asked my players like, hey, is this a thing you'd like to do, they'd be like, I don't know. They'd say no in an attempt to be like, no, I want the challenge, and then be like, okay, and then proceed to get upset at me for knocking them down first turn for like random chance. It's like, because I knew them and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And I've also later told them, oh yeah, I played my games this way, and they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It was never a thing I revealed and they were like, oh, how dare you? Because also I played with variable health in 5e, because 5e balancing is stupid, where bosses would die based off of vibes. So the death of every boss was the hypest shit ever, instead of like, kind of like, oh, you got one single little hit out, bleh. Instead, it amped up to a moment I built up to the players to have that cool cinematic end to a fight I've been building up for sessions. And all my boss fights were hyped, and everyone got really fucking pumped at the table, so I think I did something right.
It's nuanced.
It's nuanced, and also my tactics only work on people who are not regular tabletop players. I don't think I could swing this with you guys.
Yeah. And I was actually having a conversation last night with someone I played tabletop with a lot about, is death necessary in tabletop or not? Which is a very interesting conversation. And I don't know. It's one of those things where no one likes to lose, but no one wants it to be handed to them. So it's kind of just the illusion of like creating difficulty while simultaneously like guaranteeing victory for the players. And some people are not into that. Some people are just like, no, I want to play a game that has actual like consequences and yada yada. And again, nuanced. Everything is a little different. It's hard being like someone who's the most objectively correct in the situation by saying that there's no objectively correct answer. Because it's like my last video, a lot of people are just like, so it matters until it does, or it doesn't, or until it does again. And it's like, yes, that's called nuance. That's called, not every, there's not an answer for every situation, no matter how good a GM you are. Like I said, most of my players absolutely love my GM style and have had a lot of fun in my games. I've still had people leave my games because they were dissatisfied with how I was running it.
I think the method we had for Lancer is, I think, the method that works really well, where you have that conversation with the players of, hey guys, what do you want death to be? And you go through the options, where the options we had for Lancer was either it can be a permanent thing or like you go to a revive station. And
Yeah.
then it just depends on what the players want, because I think you can make a really good case to have I know we've talked about this on the tabletop too, but have an idea of hey, so this game has a revive system that doesn't like horribly punish you for doing so. So it's kind of like a video game where you feel safer and more less anxious to try some really interesting things, because if it fails, you're like, ah shit. And like then if it comes up, you can have those combats that might be a party wipe, and then it's already established in the game where that's not a feels bad, we're upset situation. It's a, oh shit, okay, we know what the boss can do now. All right, let's like make a weird fun plan to take down this boss. And then you have that moment where the players are like, feel like they took on something where they shouldn't have won, like a Dark Souls boss, but it's because they properly planned and schemed on how to make it work. Both of those things can have some very good outcomes. It's just, I think a lot of the repeats of tabletop takes that we have is make sure you talk to the players and get it figured out beforehand and see what everyone's cool with.
Consent.
Literally, yeah. That's what matters.
And I disagree that death needs to be the consequence, right? You can have other consequences. You can fail to save an NPC, or you can fail the mission and something bad in the world happens. Maybe the game gets a little harder,
Yeah.
It's done in video games relentlessly. I mean, it's not like anyone is playing Call of Duty on the expectation that their character dies, they can never play the game again.
COD permadeath in multiplayer lobbies. That sounds awful.
And the same thing is for like God of War, going through God of War and be like, oh, I died, so I gotta restart the whole game all over again. Like, no, people don't want to do that kind of stuff. You can have penalties that are equal or at least less than the prospects of character death, and the game is still good. Because I've played in games where death wasn't an option. If anyone's ever played Paranoia, you literally can get a clone printed up every time you die. But the game was ridiculously fun because of how fun the setting was.
Yeah. I think, you could just have it be a thing of like, hey, players, here's an idea I had that I might implement to see what you guys want. Maybe it's just like a Borderlands style respawn station where, oh, you died, and then you're restructured, but 10% of your money is taken each time that happens. It's like that's a penalty for players where it's like, hey, yeah, you could run in here and try out throw the party at a problem you definitely are prepared for to plan out, but you're just going to lose a chunk of money. It's like that depending on how loot centric your players are, that could be a big thing. I think it's a good thing to talk about and figure out, because I think genuinely you could have a really cool like style of game where you have the idea like death isn't permanent, you can very easily respawn, so you're gonna have to play a little bit smarter, and that can lead to extra fun interactions with the system.
Yeah, and to be fair as well, in the games that people are like death needs to be a choice or an option kind of thing, D&D and Pathfinder have reviving in it if your party has enough gold, you know.
That's true.
Yeah, even losing equipment upon death, you know, that can be another thing where it's like, the thing is, and the reason why like I have kind of, because I like death. I think death is something that brings impact, and we've had so many moments where death was a huge thing and was a really strong story point. We had to take like a month break from a game due to a character death.
Yeah.
And that's a character who's now just been immortalized by that. I don't think that we have a character who's just as like thought of as the character who died.
It leads to fantastic story moments, but it doesn't need to. Like, it can lead to fantastic bits if everyone is cool with it, it's properly communicated, and like all of that. But like it doesn't have to be there. I don't like it when people say like you have to have death because otherwise what are the consequences in tabletop? I'm not a fan of that. I think there are methods where you could find a middle ground or figure out what the table wants. Well, there's nuance to it to figure out what the best option for everybody is, rather than like a blanket idea of this is the only way to play the game, which I always hate.
Yeah, I think what tabletop needs to do in general is death needs to not be the default option. I think death should be an opt-inable choice for players.
I think that's a fair thing. Because I think, yeah, the one that we're referencing, Garvey, I think you gave me an option. Do you want me to just like let Garvey live? And I said no.
I don't remember. I know I gave you a bazillion chances, but I think he actually just died. I don't even think I gave you the choice.
I just remember that there was a point of like, are you cool with this? I just remember that question of, are you okay with this? And I said yes.
Maybe there was, yeah, because you were just assassinated in the middle of the night with no fight.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. There was a part of just like you asking like, are you cool with this? And this being my first actual like character death, I liked how this was. I thought this was a fair outcome, and I just wanted to see it through. So I said, yeah, I'm totally cool with it. I still am. I'm happy I made that decision, but like,
it sucked. It sucked at the same time.
It did suck. I'm happy I said yes. I do not regret that for a second, but it didn't make it suck less.
Oh right, he was gonna turn back time for your character.
Yeah.
And then I stepped in and like, well, that's something you should ask them, you know, whether he should or you know, he should or not, because no, that was a different one.
No, there were two. There were two.
That was against the Wrath of Nature.
Yeah, there were two instances of it, and both I was like, my answer was I'm cool to just play it out. I mean, I firmly remember Garvey's death because I was going through it. Like, I do remember you asking, "Is this cool? Like, is this okay?" And I said yes. So yeah, I did opt into it.
And you know, there's funny enough, there's also other ways to make death not as much of a deal. We literally just this week played a style of character creation where it was hoping your character survives to the end to actually become a real character. And a lot of people had characters die. A lot. Alex, cough, cough.
Yeah, exactly. I rolled poorly the entire time, except for that one guy.
Marcus barely made it through.
barely. And only because other people rolled well.
Yep. But that's the thing, right? It makes it great. It makes it feel like your character has some kind of destiny or something.
Genuinely, if that character comes up, my idea for him is almost like that ranger, like roaming nomad type dude who is the type of guy that pops in randomly and like helps somebody because in his head he's constantly paying it forward. Because his entire story, like in that backstory, was him trying to do the right thing constantly, and sometimes it blows up in his face, and he has to take part in the wrong decision, or he's helped by the altruistic actions of others, and so he has to pay it forward to make right in the universe. Like that'd be his character story, of like trying to do the best in a situation that kind of doesn't allow that all the time. So, but yeah, rip Oreo, truly.
That was tragic, and unfortunately,
I love the group reaction, like the moment Alicia's like, they have a pet cat named Oreo, and all was like, ooh.
It's just like, oh no, yeah.
That was really funny. It's just like it was, yeah, like you, Devin, and I just going all like, uh-oh, this is not good.
I am not responsible for people bringing their pets into dangerous situations.
No, you're not.
But yeah, but yeah, you know, and yeah, the triplets that. But that's the thing, right? Not all deaths had that impact, but that one did, because you guys almost made it the whole way through with all three of you, which was crazy. Oh, Alex, you definitely should check out the Cult of the Bloom section.
Devin was telling me.
It was so good.
He was very excited about it.
Yeah, so I mean, like, death is not necessary, and I think it should be something that's opt-inable, because it's true, people put a lot of time and effort into characters and a lot of investment, and to lose all that at once, that not only can just feel bad, but that can also take that person out of the campaign. Honestly, they feel less connected because the character who is building that story is now gone. So when it's an opt-inable thing, then it's something that is an active player choice, and it doesn't feel like you're trying to play on easy mode, you know? Because I was talking to my friend last night, and I said, for players in a normal game, if you were to opt in to no, don't kill my character, that feels bad. That feels like you're trying to take the easy way out, or you're trying to like cheat in a sense. But if it's the reverse and it's a no, allow my character to die if it comes up, that feels good, because you're like, no, I want to play this way because I enjoy the style. And so that's why I feel like tabletop in general needs to not defaults to death, and instead make it something that's a little bit more like opt-inable, and instead just have consequences, you know. Mission fails, didn't save the NPCs, character loses gear. There's all kinds of ways that it has been done that does not like ruin the game and allows you to keep going.
Yeah. Strictly the campaign I'm in, the D&D campaign where I've been playing since playing this campaign since fucking 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been going on for a long time. And if my character dies, like you cannot undo it, I don't have any other ideas. I don't have any other characters I'd want to bring in. I think it'd be like, yeah, that would rip me out like fully. It'd be like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't have anything else. I just have this character, and for, like, introducing a new character after I've played a single guy every Friday for like 3 years is really tough. Like, I have done it. I've brought in new characters probably to campaigns, and I think there are methods of making it work. It's difficult, and everyone else at the table needs to help you like bring it along, because it can't just fully be on your shoulders as well. Because it's a thing everyone just kind of has to band together and be like, this will be awkward for a little bit, but let's push through it. But like, you have all that investment, and also me, like, actual money spent, where I'm like, well, that's kind of all gone. I can't keep going with it. And yeah, it's you invest all that much, and if this character, if I had an option in the moment, like, do you want your character to die right now, I would say no. I want to keep going. I want to finish their story because I put so much effort into it.
Yeah, so I mean, again, nuanced, but I feel like a general option of death is not the defaults would help a lot of players.
Yeah, how many games where it's like, hey, like you die, quote unquote, but then you wake up in like hospital bed, or like someone's like been nursing you back to health or something.
Yeah, definitely. There's that too. Just playing sibling of dead character who's the same in every way. Like, what was the point of the death then?
Exactly.
So I feel like it just cut out the middleman there and just don't make death a thing. Or at least make it something that a player can choose to. Because me personally, always will turn the keep me alive button off. I'll die if my character dies, and that's just how it is. Because I have yet to have a character like actually die. First of all, and I would like to try to make a really good character death. But also in general, I can immerse myself in the character and the idea of the story that much that will bring meaning to me and make me feel good about what happened, even if I feel a little bad at first. Don't die if your character dies. Yeah, no. Not that button. That button's got the glass case. Any other bad takes? We've been on this one for quite a bit.
We have. Oh, geez, we have been on this for quite a bit. I just looked at the time.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
I knew we were going to. I was trying not to, because I was like, we could spend the last hour just talking about if death is, like, a necessary thing. Sorry, I only have good takes. That's an Alex line right there.
Because it's true. I only have good takes.
Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. If you like a game enough, you can play it in any other theme or setting.
You mean like the idea of making D&D this weird catch-all system that runs any other game-like setting?
That's not bad. That's okay, Myriad. Thanks for coming up. I'm glad. It's been a while since you've been here. I mean, I know you showed up recently, like a few Table Talks ago, but it's good to see you back. That's a very bad take.
What? That's uncool. It's untrue as well. All my tabletop opinions are nuanced, fully thought out, and fully realized.
But yeah, so like, if you enjoy a tabletop, just play it in any other setting. Like, do anything you want. Like, this is an interesting subject. Oh, have you? Okay. I can't know if you keep changing names. Was it Rylan? No, it can't be. Was it Rylan? I mean, there's a difference between like setting, because we're doing a modern Pathfinder take, but that's also just because I don't like most of the modern fantasy games out there currently. Not a big fan of Secret World in general. It was Rylan. Oh, okay. My bad. But yeah, I don't like any of the modern fantasy games out currently. Because like World of Darkness, I think like a hunter style, the Vigil one, could be really good. But even then, it doesn't quite have the same depth that I personally enjoy in tabletop. And even then, it's still hidden world style stuff. But there's just a lot you can do with it to make it fun. I kind of like the build aspects more of Pathfinder in general. So, you know, if we found something that fit better, I totally would be more into that for sure.
Yeah, the chunk of Pathfinder with the setting of like a World of Darkness game, but not hidden world. Just like, oh yeah, it's their supernatural bullshit, just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you guys were in a city and is being attacked by flaming meteors from space, green meteors with demons crawling out of them. But there were cars and guns, like big guns.
Yeah, that's interesting because I kind of like hidden world stuff. I think hidden world stuff can be fun because I just think it just appeals to that sense of you're in on the secret kind of deal, which I think feels fun in that idea because like there's so many a large chunk of modern stuff are secret world because that's just what you do to make it interesting. Like I mean fucking Assassin's Creed is a hidden world setting.
Yeah, true.
Which I love. I love the Assassin's Creed setting with how stupid it is.
Well, the thing is the reason why it's done that way is otherwise you'd have to recontextualize how the world is made to fit a setting where the supernatural is more apparent. I agree kind of. The thing is like I would prefer if it was more of this something of there's what the civilians know and there's what the military knows, you know. Like the people in the city, they don't know about all the crazy stuff going on outside the walls because they're safe inside. But us who have to go out and handle like the dangers of the world or protect the cities from the truly terrible things, like we've seen stuff that most people will never see. And like D&D and Pathfinder try to do this, but it never makes any fucking sense. Because they always break that continuity of like, your average person's never seen a dragon in their life. And then they'll come out with an AP where dragons attack Waterdeep or something.
Huh. Actually, the only setting I can think of that does exactly what you're saying is 40K.
Exactly, right? Most civilians of the Empire don't know anything about the Xenos.
The most they might know generally is Eldar, most likely. And that's like the most likely. That's not saying everyone knows. It's strictly the idea of Nids are too recent, Necrons are too rare. Actually, orcs. Orcs are the most known because orcs are fucking everywhere and you can't get rid of them. And they'll just attack for no reason because they think it's funny. But yeah, all the others are like too rare or too new or too recent. Or literally their entire design is to be weird, like gene stealers, where it's like gene stealers get around really easily because everyone just kind of assumes they're a weird mutant, like abhuman, like offshoot of the human race. So that's like, and then there are other elements that are directly hidden, like a lot of chaos is firmly hidden from the populace, so they don't fall to chaos. Yeah. It's just the knowledge that it exists sometimes is too dangerous for people.
And see, that's the kind of stuff that I like.
Yeah, and I think Warhammer Fantasy does it somewhat to a lower extent, actually. Because the one thing that's really fun about reading Warhammer Fantasy novels is everyone knows that the Chaos Gods exist. Which makes people falling into Chaos Corruption really interesting to read because they're like fully understanding that what's going on is corruption, but they're like justifying it in the early stages, which is really interesting. There's some stories in the Gotrek and Felix series where you see a character going down like the Slaanesh like tree, essentially becoming more Slaanesh aligned, and like they're justifying why it's okay that they're doing this, and that makes it interesting. But still, a lot of like the scary shit of the world is still unknown to like the normal people. And then there's a few characters like, oh yeah, that thing, it's horrifying. I fought it.
Yeah. I like how Anima Beyond Fantasy has done it. It's not necessarily a hidden world, but the world is in a state of like resurgence of the supernatural. And so creatures are coming out of the woodworks and are starting to actually like, become a thing. But there's very rare. You're not likely to come into them unless you're going out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's less of it's being actively hidden from us. It's this shit might have been in some legends a long time ago because it existed a long time ago, but no one's seen it for like a fuck off long time.
Yeah, and though there's also like the Inquisition, you know, like it's known that the Inquisition is going around and killing people who are like possessed by demons or whatever. No one ever really sees when this actually happens because the events that happen are so rare. But people expect that these things do exist, and there's like this idea that like it's kind of like Christianity in a sense, where there's people who genuinely believe that demons are real in our world, you know, which is something you can't see or do or whatever, you know. And that's the kind of stuff I like. I like this sense that your average citizen is not going to come across these things, because if they did, they would die. It would not be a thing of like, you know, it would not be a thing of like, oh, trolls are attacking our city, please, adventurers come help. If trolls attacked a city in like Anima, the city would be gone, and the players would have to figure out what happened there in the first place before they found out like what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of stuff I like. I like the idea that like people are kind of vaguely aware that there are things beyond their understanding out there, but it's something that they just never deal with because they don't, you know, they're not out like going out. And the only people who are going out are either military or the hero characters in whatever form or fashion, you know.
Yeah, it's the one you've talked about a lot of the Final Fantasy 15 style world of there's pockets of safety, and it's pretty known that like, oh yeah, there's some horrific shit if you leave the city, so maybe just don't.
Yeah. And then there's hunters, but like one of the big core, one of the core loops, I guess, of 15 is you go and retrieve hunter dog tags because they die all the time fighting the various monsters out there.
Because like, yeah, I've seen some of the monsters out there. They just need that one ring Noctis has where that allows you to kill anything. That like what the giant fucking like land turtle boss. That's like the end game shit.
The adamant choice.
Yeah, where you can just insta kill it with the ring.
It's not insta kill.
It's better than the like few hours it takes to fight it normally.
It takes a good amount of time draining its health with the ring, actually.
Fair.
But yeah.
But quicker than if you did it legit.
True. It's also super funny because the ring just causes their like the creatures wither away when it is, and all they're doing is just like slowly bring the vertices of their model together.
That's fun.
And so when you kill that Adamantoise, finally it's just these big long threads of model all over the place. But yeah, it's a, you know, it you want your players to feel special. I feel it's super hard to make your players feel like legitimate special people in like Pathfinder or D&D, because there's just those people everywhere. Like the concept of an adventurer is common knowledge, and all adventure paths are canon. And thus there are times where in different APs you'll hear about the adventurers that help stop the Lich or blah 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 blah, you know.
That does help fix the 5e problem of where the fuck are the other heroes that are in this setting? Where are they? What are they doing?
Yeah.
Why aren't they solving this problem? When in Galarian it's like they're referenced, or even like there are those like big name characters, but it feels like they're justified for not taking part in every single problem in the world, because they're probably doing something else that also is a fucking massive issue.
Well, even if that's true, Dead Phoenix, that's still the superhero problem in New York City. It still doesn't make sense.
Yeah, at least there's a couple that do. It's like, yeah, you know, if you're talking about Marvel, Spider-Man's got Queens, Daredevil's got Hell's Kitchen, like all that. But still.
Yeah.
That's why I like the Warhammer fantasy solution to it, where it's just like, there's literally not enough people. it's like there could be a bunch of heroes in one area that's still not enough. With how many fucking characters are in the main empire, too many problems on too many fronts. So like, there's always a reasonable excuse why a character is not present in a scene. Where it's
well,
like,
and the universe is also massive.
Yeah, for strictly like fantasy, at least, which also the world map is fucking big. It's literally 1-to-1 scale of Earth, and that's not even taking into account once you go too north and it becomes all warpy and all weird, because the north is kind of fully chaos corrupted and almost like ebbing into the warp itself. I think Elder Scrolls also has a reason that gets around this as well, that I used to know. But Elder Scrolls lore is too coherent. It makes me upset.
Well, Elder Scrolls, it makes sense because even though there are some powerful characters, most of the characters are not actually that strong in the setting.
Too. And some that are that strong are literally ascended into higher beings and leave.
Or kings or queens of nations that can't just leave the city whenever they want.
Or alternatively, they wake up from the dream and then cease to exist, which also will happen. Because if you get too strong in the Elder Scrolls universe, you'll kind of realize that the entire setting exists in a dream of a sleeping god, and then you have the decision of, do you become a lucid dreamer, or can you not handle it and cease to exist?
That's interesting. I didn't know that it was only 25 blocks. It makes sense,
yeah.
though.
Yeah, Daredevil has like just a literal tiny ass district in New York, and he's still busy as fuck.
Yeah. So, it's like I want a setting that has the high fantasy elements to it, but I also want it to be something where it's just not anyone. Like, adventurers aren't a thing, Your characters, when the game is going and you're playing the game, your characters are the handful. Your characters are the ones. There's not like a lot of stuff. That's why for the game I've been designing, it has a time aspect to it, where there's different phases of the setting that you can play in, and events of prior eras can make it's like playing Gloomhaven in a sense, where when you beat a mission, you unlock something for the city. It's the same concept, only when you do things in prior campaigns, it unlocks things for future eras that your characters can be in. Mm-hmm. So, with that, it makes it a lot more sensible that things are happening, and also like it's just a massive world. The planet in which the setting takes place is the size of our solar system.
Yeah. Way too big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be everywhere.
Something where if you were in a literal rocket, not bound by air friction or whatever, it would still take you months to cross the whole thing one way. And longer, actually, because you have to go around the curve. And there's a reason why gravity just doesn't murder absolutely everyone on the planet, because, a planet of that size would have so much gravity, you'd just be crushed instantly stepping foot. There's a reason why there's not. But,
I think it's a thing you always have to justify when you're creating a new setting. It's something you should think about, is why in the world is your character being important matter, and like solve the question of like, why doesn't someone more qualified deal with it? Like, why is your character chosen to be the one to do this? It's like something I tackled in the setting I built, where strictly one of the rules of the setting is that to become an adventurer is a magical thing, like literally tied to the natural magic of the planet. So only a small population of the total world can even become that, just naturally. So it's just literally, there's not enough people for all the problems to face. Which also means that like there's a lot of tactics to deal with like the regular rest of the population who can't, like, say for pure D&D terms, can't get past level 5. They can still make do because they got raw numbers on their side. But like adventurers can't be everywhere at once because there's literally not enough people for how big the world is. Because I just like that. I like that concept that Warhammer has, where like specifically Warhammer Fantasy, where it's like there's just not enough people that are that powerful that exist at one given time. So just there cannot be enough people to solve every problem. Some problems will just fall through the cracks because you can't be there.
Yeah, that's something that settings need to do more often, is just have more story seeds of, oh yeah, this place destroyed, gone. Like, they do have that sometimes, but it's like when you have narrative bloat because you're making a setting like Forgotten Realms has terrible narrative bloat because so many people write in it, and so much of it is super focused on like the Sword Coast. It doesn't feel like there should be problems because there's canonically adventurers who've done something like last year. Pathfinder has it a bit too. At least Pathfinder does more with the actual continents though, and has a much bigger area.
It's a whole ass continent, not a coastline.
No, it's 2 continents.
Yeah.
And they're actually releasing the Qianxia area next, which is super cool. So
I'm excited for that.
Me too. I'm actually super stoked for that. But yeah, it's, you know, like, you need justification, you need so many things, and Hidden World just doesn't do it because Hidden World also has the problem of there's just spooky stuff everywhere, but somehow no one sees it. Like, mage is literally normal people can't comprehend magic, so their brains justify the weird things they're seeing or just fail to see it altogether.
Yeah. I mean, there's some that do better than others, mainly.
Mage is always the hardest because it's like world-bending magic. Vampire's better because they have like this the Camarilla and so many of the kindred are in high like positions in society that like nothing gets on the news without their approval.
Yeah, it's literally baked into the setting that it has to be a secret world, and there's a lot of reasons for it. There's a lot of rules for it too. It's like I think it's one of the strongest examples of how to make a really good secret world system or setting. Is just how VCM does it.
But even then, what I don't like about it is players are not as attentive to the secret world, and will oftentimes break the you know, the Camarilla or whatever.
Break the Masquerade, yeah.
Break the Masquerade. And this is like, okay, how do I justify? How do these fuck ups not screw the entire setting over? You know, I don't like that. But when you have something that's more like Warhammer, that's been mentioned before, or like Anima, it's like something happens, that's a big event, and everyone hears about it, but most people still won't see those things. And a lot of it is just first-person hand accounts of the people who survive. And in I mean, I guess both settings as well, information doesn't travel that quickly. You know, in Anima, a city could be blown up by a beam of light from the sky, and it would still take months, if not years, for some cities to hear about this event.
Exactly the same in 40K. Just replace city with planet.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I feel like Secret World just puts too much onus on the players to, like, adhere to it, or forces the GM to scramble whenever something gets a little wrong. I mean, how we were just playing Monster of the Week. We were fighting zombies in a graveyard in the middle of the day. And now a police officer has come up, and we're probably going to be arrested or something.
Excuse you. You have an FBI agent in your party. I have jurisdiction here.
I'd like to see how that turns out in this next session.
Yeah. Don't worry, I have it ready. I have it planned. I know what I'll do.
And definitely say exactly that. There's some people out there who just are like, no, I think the secret world stuff is bullshit. People should know. It's like, how do you handle those characters, you know? It's just, there's just a lot. And I also want to say, because they've shown up in our chat before, not recently, and I think I know why. Recently, Ag Silver Radio made a comment on NoNat's video stating why they didn't like the removal of alignments or a lot of things that Pathfinder 2e is doing. And then they called removing alignment woke, which is not something I agree with, personally.
That's okay. That's certainly a take you can have.
Yeah. But NoNats has also been flaming them everywhere. On Twitter, NoNat made a big comment about it and showed like their face and referred to them in the post. And then in his most recent video, he was just like, and fuck this person, showing the same thing. And I don't condone the bullying of people who don't agree with everything you think on the internet. And, you know, when you're a channel the size of NoNats, that's pretty unfortunate. So
I feel like there are methods where you could do it in a way that's a bit cooler. Because I am all for, if someone encroaches on your social media space, you fucking clown them if they're being dumb. But like the moment you transcend it to other platforms, is like, it's a little much.
Well, and it was on YouTube in a comment on a video, you know. It wasn't like they jumped on their Twitter or anything like that. And then, like, everyone talks bad about some terrible comment that's happened. But I don't refer to them by name as much as I can. Nor do I just start railing them from every angle I can on social media. I think that's a little in bad taste. And most of it, you know what, let me see if I can find the actual posts. Because it was honestly not that bad. They did say that changing alignment is woke, which
is just a dumb thing to say.
Which is a dumb thing to say. I completely agree with that for sure.
Because it's the constant talk of like such and such is woke. It's like, yo, stop just throwing weird words like that around. Just say you don't like it.
But I want to say, they've been here in our chat before,
Yeah,
you know,
I've seen them a few times.
And they're probably, and they've never been a troublemaker here, as far as I'm aware.
We certainly haven't called random things woke, which
True.
Like,
and so, you know, if Bag shows up, just be like, hey, you know, don't, they might not even know, honestly. Ah, here it is.
yeah, don't be on Twitter, and then you're just fine.
So, you know, you don't need to bring it up, but, you know, just be nice to them. So NoNat said, you heard it here first, Paizo. Ag Silver thinks removing alignment is woke. Time to cancel the remaster. Obviously, people come to Pathfinder for its conservative classic OSR staples. And Ag Silver Radio made a... oh, God. So Ag Silver made this comment, and NoNat's clipped this 4 minutes after it was made.
That's a bit weird.
I hate all these changes and negate some of the reasons why I moved to Pathfinder 2nd Edition in the first place. Let me explain why. Alignment, spell schools, traits, etc. are useful tags that make things more searchable. I agree, and I personally liked alignment in Pathfinder. I felt like it had a purpose. It connected to the cosmology and all kinds of stuff like that. But I'm also not heartbroken that it's being removed. And then in parentheses under this, also, removing alignment is woke. That was all they said.
I mean, I don't agree with, I think, any part of that comment, but I also wouldn't be like complaining about it publicly, because it's not delivered in a way that's like insulting, but also just like, I mean, the idea of like all these are useful tags that are searchable. are they just gonna have different names? It's gonna be the same thing. They're just named differently.
Well, spell schools, I feel it's very strange to remove because it also messes with it. Like, I just either did it just come out or was it one that's no, it's coming up. The harrower. No. Hallow Necromancer, because it mentions necromancy spell specifically.
Okay.
Which is now gonna have a trouble. I don't think I've ever searched for tags using alignments or schools. Schools, yes, I have, for very much the same reason. Just mentioned.
Oh yeah, magic. I 100% have. That's the only one. But I just in my head, it's like it's gonna still be classified that. Just the tag will be different. They're not gonna destroy the organizational system. They're just gonna replace the keyword. Like that doesn't seem like a major problem. So like, I don't know.
I mean,
It doesn't seem like a problem that I'm gonna like. Some archetypes are gonna have to be retooled and changed to fit the right wording. That's gonna be the hardest part. It's the same thing with like I'm gonna have to fully recreate William from the ground up because like every part of his character is gonna have different names for shit. Like if I want it to be fully like Pathfinder remastered friendly, which I want to actually, I do want to do that. It's not a bad thing, but it's also like I'm not sitting here like, oh, my character's being destroyed. It's like, well, things are just called different things now.
Yeah, but I mean, if we remove the woke part of this, it's not like anything flame-worthy, IMO. No. Just someone who prefers having alignments and spell schools. And it's understandable, and technically is not even actually being removed by remaster.
No.
Okay, but like, someone genuinely saying, I don't like this change, that's fine. The parentheses removing alignment is woke. Like, yeah, kind of a bad take. Yeah, everything will still be on Archive of Nethys anyway. And there is a bad take there. Removing alignment is woke. That's a very a nothing statement. How is it woke? You know what I mean? Like, I like alignment. I do. I genuinely do. I don't think removing it is woke necessarily. But, you know, whatever, to each their own. But the thing is that...
alignment, but I also don't think my opinion is woke. Like, it's not. It's just, this is a part of the game I don't interact with, so I have zero issues with it being removed.
Yeah. And Nona has 7.5 thousand followers on Twitter and nearly, if not already, 50,000 subs. And not only has he been plastered this on his Twitter, also has been making reference to it in each of the videos. And tabletop is about being welcoming to everyone. No matter, like, not no matter, despite having differences in opinions and such. The woke comment, a little much, but people are entitled to their opinions, and it's a power dichotomy thing. Nona doing this is way worse than their woke comment, because who's gonna look at their one comment in one video on YouTube, right? People are just gonna scroll by it, do whatever, you know. But being shouted out in a video, being addressed by name on Twitter, like, that's just asking to get that person bullied like crazy.
I think at the very least, you like, as a bigger creator, if someone's being dumb at you and strictly deserving of it, because I don't think this one's deserving of it, of like being clowned on, like I wouldn't if it was in my comment section. I feel like you get you get a clap back like once or twice, you get to respond freely. I'm really against the idea that big creators can't, like, if someone just comes out the woodworks insulting them, they can't clap back. Because then it's like, oh, then your followers are going to bully them. It's like, well, you should know this. But on the other hand, like, you get the one. You don't let this live rent-free in your brain. Like, then it's just kind of weird, man. If this is all you're thinking out about is just how to single out this single comment, that's just weird.
I don't know. As someone who has been here in our chats before, and we talked with, and who was generally like pretty okay, you know, all things considered. It's the only reason why I brought this up in the first place. Every YouTuber out there has shouted out a particular bad take comment or done whatever. Many YouTubers have the decency to not show their name. Some even go the extra step to like rephrase the comment so it's not directly linked to what they said.
That's what I've done.
You know, just to rehash it or whatever, just to attack the idea more than the person.
Yeah, because like I think if I got that comment and my only response to that literally Ttrpgs would have been like, what the fuck does that mean that it's woke? Like, what does that mean? Please explain what you're trying to say. I'm curious because I think it's stupid.
It's been a very funny thing in politics where reporters keep asking what Republicans think is woke.
Yeah, what does that mean? And then they have no answer because it's
they're just like
whatever.
They just keep saying things that just make no sense and yada yada.
Because I've had that. I've had people in my comments say some weird shit, and like my one of my go-tos is like, what the fuck are you trying to say? Please explain it in like normal words. Just deliver your point in a way that's normal. Like, why? Like, someone's like, I like made a really weird roundabout comment recently in one of my tier lists of like, I see exactly why you don't like this just looking at you. And my only response was like, I don't know what the fuck you're digging into to think this is deeper. Like, please explain to me what you mean. Like, what does that mean? Because I want to know. I'm curious, and that's and then I've had others where I've been called woke for making a pretty like low-hanging fruit joke about the British Museum stealing things from other cultures and like countries, which I didn't think was a woke opinion. I thought that was just factually accurate because that is what happened. They went to other countries and were like, this would look nice in my building back home. But like, and then the comment I got months back was like, you ruined it with the anti-British woke like pandering. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Please explain what crowd am I pandering to? Where are they? I have 400 subs right now. I'll pander harder if it means I'll blow up. Yeah, that guy. Or I've had others where it just swings by someone who's just like insulting insulting me, so I'll just clap back because like, no, fuck you. You come into my space, I'm gonna make fun of you too. Yeah,
and that's okay. I'm all for that.
Yeah. It's the extending it to multiple fields where it's weird. If Nonats shouted out just on the Twitter, that's good. If Nonats only made like a video like right after is like just kind of bring it up as like a joke, like, yeah, all right, fair enough. You get your one. Once it happens more than like twice, then I'm like, all right, dude. This is just weird only because why are you thinking about this so much?
Well, and what bothers me about the situation more than anything is I know, because we spoke with them again, that they just joined Pathfinder, you know, and they're making the transition over from D&D, and they seemed really excited, and having the biggest Pathfinder YouTuber start dunking on you everywhere after one comment on a video is just kind of bad taste. And it wasn't even that big of a thing. Like, removing alignment as woke is like, you don't even know what they're talking about.
No.
Right? Like, it's not like they were saying, Pathfinder removing slavery is woke or something like that. Like a really bad take that's very obvious the kind of person you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Like there's a lot of situations where I'm like justified, or I don't think it's like, and I would not have even looked at this one more than just this if it wasn't for the fact that it's someone that's actually been here and was genuinely excited and now is just probably gonna not play Pathfinder or not associate with the community now because the biggest Pathfinder channel looked at their comment and decided, I'm gonna dunk on this person relentlessly now.
Yeah.
And again, it's also like calling them out by name in posts is just, it wasn't even like a look at this bad comment, guys. It was Ag Silver thinks this. Look at this comment. You know, it just seems very personally attacking. And all I'm saying here is just be nice to them. You know, you can disagree with them. You can think that maybe they're just too, you know, if they're too into that side of tabletop, sure, you don't have to like them or anything like that. But if I said the same thing, it wouldn't mean nearly as much. The only complaint I have is the power dynamic here is pretty rough, and it's not like to the size of like Moist Critical, right? Where if Moist Critical mentions someone, he's getting millions of views like a week on his content. Shutting out one person doesn't mean anything. This is the Pathfinder community though, and on YouTube, which is not notoriously that big, and the number of people who are actively talking in comments are not that many. You know, maybe a couple hundred. It's just on a scale that made me feel very uncomfortable, and it was kind of a really bad thing for Nonat to do because it just looks bad. It just looks like he's dunking on someone because he thinks they're better than them, or he thinks he's better than them on a platform that, like, there's just not that many people. And for a pretty, like, harmless statement in the end, because, again, I don't even know what kind of person, what this person thinks when they say removing alignment is woke.
It's, at the end of the day, it's a dumb comment, not a malicious or, like, I'd say kind of...
It's not heinous.
Yeah, it's not something that's, like, deserving of that. At the end of the day, it's just like, haha, that's a dumb thing to say. How the fuck is it woke? Please explain just how you got to that opinion. And then that'd be the end of it.
It could be a conversation. And that, if there's people who come on here on TableTalk and I've talked to them and they're like, I don't like this. And I'm like, okay, let's have a conversation about it, you know? Or I'll say, I disagree. And there's been people I've had to, like, just straight up shoo out of the space because they were being super weird about it. Like someone saying, you know, there wouldn't be a gatekeeper if there wasn't anything to protect. Like someone actively gatekeeping. It's like, get out of here. We don't need you. We don't need people like that here. And the term woke is, like, inflammatory at this point.
Yeah, it's just dumb to walk around being like, that's woke, that's woke. And honestly, that's probably what it is, which is why, my opinion of it is, like, you get the one. Either you shout it out in a video or you make that tweet. You get the one.
Or,
and then
at the very least, just don't put the person's name in it.
Yeah, just, like, use the screenshot tool and just, like, whoop, just put your finger, like, cross out the name if you really want to.
Blur it, do whatever.
At the end of the day, I don't think it makes that big of a difference, because if people are going to hunt it down, they're going to find the text anyways. Like, I don't know how much it actually fixes or changes. Like, because, you know, they'll find the body of text if they really want to find it in your comment section.
Yeah, but that's
this person.
That's a lot more difficult than finding a username that's been openly revealed. So
I don't know. It's like that level of it. Like, I am less concerned with that part. It's the part where it's like directly calling out the name in the tweet is like a little weird. That part I agree with. Including the screenshot, I don't know. It's still my thing of you get one avenue to dunk, and then after that, it's really weird if you keep bringing it up, because why in the fuck are you, like, thinking about it this much?
Yeah, I don't know. I only brought it up because there's a member who joined our community and talked here before. And, you know, if they come back, then just be nice to them. Don't fall for the hate that's being generated on their behalf because of getting shout out like that. You can definitely disagree. I definitely disagree with the idea that they have, for sure. But, you know, I'm a kind person who doesn't wish bullying upon anyone, you know, unless they're particularly heinous. And a statement like saying alignment is woke is just so weak that it doesn't deserve a response in any capacity. So I don't know. It's something that in our space, especially in Pathfinder, because it's so small, you gotta be careful of. It's just, you know, it's just one of those things. I wanted to bring it up because I felt that was a particularly in bad taste thing to do. And that's just the internet, though, right? You can't control what other people do or say. And I'm not saying No Nat should change it. I'm not going into his DMs and be like, hey man, this is bad. I don't care enough to do that much. All I'm saying is in our little space right here with 10 plus people who show up every time, like, you see Xsilver, just don't bother him about it. That's it. Don't push any more hate than necessary. If they start saying stuff, then of course, I've definitely disavowed what people have said here in chat before. I'm not, but I also don't talk about them afterwards or put names out. I don't like legitimately address the people like what was happening. So, and like I understand, like I'm not saying No Nat's a bad person, but he has a level of power that needs to be like respected, right? He needs to understand this way what he does, because if he wanted to, he can send people after anyone like attack dogs, because the internet is a terrible place where people can do that kind of stuff with no apprehension whatsoever. Like the bigger one gets, the more responsible you need to be with what you say and do. It's absolutely mandatory. And as the biggest Pathfinder creator in a not that big space, it's actually kind of scary to think that, one bad comment and you could have a bunch of people jumping down your throat, because Mr. Big Man didn't like your comment. It's just, and it was on a video. Like I said, like someone commenting on your video is the most innocuous thing to make a comment on. It's not like an actual forum. It's not an open space to communicate or whatever. It's for people who are watching that video, and mostly just the people who are watching that video who are then looking in the comments to find some of the fight or something. Like it's such a not easily viewed space that I feel like the clapback was just a little too much. Anyway, I feel like I've said enough on the subject.
Yeah, kind of made both of our opinions on the subject pretty clear, like how either of us would solve that problem. I'm all for just clowning on a person who says something dumb, but it not have it go too far.
Yeah,
and also just
not being super personal with it,
I remember comments because I think they're funny. I remember me being woke because I made fun of the British Museum because I think that's really fucking funny. I'm not making references towards that guy every other video.
You're not even using their name. I don't think you've used their name once.
Never. The most I've done, like video-wise, is when I talked about Trace, and again, I did bring up the British Museum again. And also, just like I've carried the energy and then got upset that people weren't like didn't carry over. It's like I made fun of Australia in the next video, and I was upset to be like, all right, carry that energy. Like, come on, don't just single out because I talked about the Brits. Be just as upset if I talk about the Australians, or make a joke about the really shitty like capitalists on Corvus Corax Homeworld just being Amazon. Very basic jokes, but like that are very clear. It's like someone could maybe disagree with them for they think it's whatever, woke or politicized, but like at the end of the day, it's a joke, and I'll respond to any insults toward such with ridicule, because like you're getting this pressed over a very innocuous joke that lasted a couple seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we talked today about the guy who had the bad take about monks and tabletop, right?
Yeah, that one is also because of I think it's so funny to be like, that's your line in the sand. That's it. That's what gets it. Because like it's so goofy, and also just purely like, man, I would so not play in a game with that person. They don't sound fun. Right. But like I also don't. I wouldn't bring them up like endlessly, other than like, oh, the conversation come up. Remember that one comment?
Yeah, we remember what's in the comment and what was said, and we are like talking about the comment. I would have no problem knowing as like, look at this comment. Isn't this comment dumb? And be fine with it. I feel like being able to refute comments is one of the few like catharsis that content creators get. Is just to be like, hey everyone, look at this dumb comment right here. Me.
There's some funny ones I see on Twitter where it's like, what the fuck? How is that your take from something, like from the comments? Like, it's very entertaining to see like some YouTubers screenshot like, what the fuck is this? And it's like a weird comment. It's funny.
Yeah, but in such short order go like, not only that, but to address them in the tweet itself, not just like, hey guys, look at this bad comment, bam. It's like, hey Ag, yeah, you suck, look at your bad comment. And then in his next video, literally like next day, being like, don't be this person, you know. It just feels super aggressive for no reason. And I think it's just a bad take in a space like this. Like, tabletop is literally full. It's probably one of the most like generally controversial spaces of just how the game is basically played. You know, there's a lot of other games like League of Legends or whatever. It's just like, it's not about the meta, it's about having fun. There's that. But in tabletop, like, not a single video. The video I posted yesterday, there's just so many different takes on what was happening in that video. And some were very genuine and some were very disingenuous with how it was presented. And I'm not here being like, all right, guys, here's my hit list today. Dunk on this person, this person, this person, this person. Like, that's just, people are just gonna have bad takes, different takes. There's a lot of the tabletop community I don't genuinely agree on like up gamers.
Yeah.
Very strong part of the community, one I definitely don't side with. Not that I think power gaming is bad. I think the idea that if you're not power gaming, you're not playing the game is bad.
I think it's the same method as if you're playing a selfish character or playing a Paragon character. You can power game responsibly. You can make a character that's powerful and is a good build. Just play it in a way that's not to the detriment of other people around you.
Or don't get upset when other people don't play optimized builds.
Yeah, I've played with positive power gamers because they just really like doing that. And then like at the end of the day, their characters aren't bad characters. They're just optimized and like good builds. Like there's no problem with that. They're not mutually exclusive. It's just they're on the broad average strokes. You can a lot of people who are very, very dedicated to power gaming are not the types who want to make like massive narrative stuff. Because, you know, that background is just different.
Yeah. Point standing.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's okay to refute the idea. It's okay to like be very impersonal, because I think that's also just another thing as well, is just impersonally addressing a comment, even if their name is in the comment, as long as the person is sitting there like, look at this bad comment, like not even giving the person who made the comment like any attention, but just like, look at this bad comment right here, right? That's one thing. But like personally attacking that person, addressing them, and like making the conversation a lot more like you and them, it's just not a good take in general. The internet is full of all kinds of people with all kinds of opinions, and when you start like making it personal between you and them, that just is bad, and it plays on bad power dynamics in general when it comes to these spaces. Anyway, we've gone way over time. I guess it's an important subject, so I don't mind.
Yeah, same.
Don't bully people, kids. If someone has a bad take, just ignore them. Or clown on them. But don't just start taking their name and running it through every platform you can and trying to make them public enemy number one. That's just not a good way. Not a good take. Not a good feel. It gives that person too much power and like makes them a bit notorious more than they probably deserve to be noticed. So it really doesn't help anything in the end. I don't know. But thank you all so much for watching. And Alex, anything coming up? Anything, you know, you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, if you go to my channel right now, there's a video, a recent one I made. I'm going on a little series talking about the 40k Chaos Gods, which I'm excited to do. I love chaos, and going into the fun nitty gritty of these characters, quote unquote, is really fun. Also, this Saturday, noon Eastern Time, there will be a podcast on the channel Voxcast to Nowhere on YouTube that will include me there. I'm in it. It's a podcast where we talk about the Primarchs and like the beginning of the Great Crusade, and primarily it's us going into like all 18 of the Primarchs, giving our opinions and takes on them, and it was very fun. It was a great time. So go to Voxcast Nowhere, subscribe to him. He's great. The other co-host, Hyperspace Hobbies, is also great. Go subscribe to him too. If you want easy links, my recent video, Blue Boy on YouTube, I have them both in the description. Go drop them some subs and leave some positive comments in their shit, because they're both doing some really cool, unique things in the scheme of 40k content. I wouldn't be like super associated with them if they were just the basic normal 40k content style of slideshows. They're both trying to do something interesting and unique, which I appreciate.
All right. And I'll have a video out tomorrow. Videos are going to be, hopefully, from now on. I've said this many times before. But now we've moved. Now we're here. Hopefully, everything will be regular. Video coming out tomorrow. I actually have video tomorrow and the next day. Or next Monday planned. Also, I'm stating it here. Hold me to it. Furry video. The Tiefling furry video coming out next week.
Good. I want to see it. Because I need to yell in the comments about how stupid the idea that tieflings or furries are.
Is it going to be a video or a short? I don't know if I'll like condense it a bunch or do something fun and like try to play it up or something. I don't know.
If it's under a minute, a short, but I also think that video would just work really well as a like stream highlight almost video, including the fun bits, like you know what other streamers do, just cut down videos to like 10-12ish minutes of stream, like the best parts, like because I think that'd just be really good. There's enough funny moments, especially in the final like 10 minutes of that stream.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, that will be coming out next week. And also, I don't know I don't know the specifics of everything yet, and nothing has been set in stone. Next month, I may be participating in a content creator collaboration with a bunch of other Pathfinder 2e content creators.
Ooh.
And we're going to do a kind of like a here's how we play style of Pathfinder thing. Possibly.
Hell yeah.
Next month. So
that's gonna be cool.
That's gonna be really cool. I don't want to state but with who. I don't want to state necessarily like about what. Nothing has been set in stone. It's been it's been getting set up, but it's exciting, and it's something that I really want in the space, is just more content creators kind of collaborating a bit, and something that I'll probably start doing once we hit like 10k subs on the channel. You know, start having some weight that I can actually swing around and grab some people with. So you know, that's just YouTube for you, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As well, Saturdays, 3 p.m. now? Is it 3 or 4? I can't remember.
4:30.
4:30?
Devin at work.
That's gonna be rough.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, or you can pick them up every week.
I mean, that's not necessarily a problem, but...
I mean, yeah.
Anyway.
4-ish.
4-ish.
Currently, okay. At least. So, like, if you're able to do that, then you should pop into that server and tell Vale, but... At least for this community, tentatively 4-ish.
Yeah, around 4. You can check us out on, what is their Twitch channel?
Much. That was very exciting.
It is Aza_app.
Yeah, Aza_app. You can just drop that in the chat.
Stuart, how you doing?
We're going to be doing Monster of the Week again, and that's gonna be a somewhat regular thing. And I'm gonna be one of the players, and you can come watch me play a meek, nerdy monster hunter guy named Tobias Mansfield, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So check us out on Saturday.
And I'm playing a fully legitimate, I promise, FBI agent who's ready to shoot some cryptids.
But all right, I guess we'll say goodnight.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.